Hello, everyone, and welcome to Game On Reactions. And what performance by Arsenal today against Brighton. Three goals to the good. And how did that performance feel, guys? It felt really good. I am beginning to watch Arsenal games with a little bit less stress. I don't know about you guys, but it's been very difficult, watching Arsenal games the last couple of years. Um, I know as a fan, you always get nervous when your team is playing, but it always used to seem that you were almost expecting the worst when you were playing Arsenal. And you never knew when they scored a goal whether it was going to be enough. If they scored two, if the other team would, equalize or something like that. But I'm beginning to say that every now time when Arsenal goes one goal up, I'm thinking, I think we can win this. There is no accident that the defensive record has been what it has been in the last 9 games in the Premier League. In fact, since the start of the season, it's been absolutely imperious, absolutely imperious. Just loving every single aspect of it. Listen, guys, let me know what you think. Are Arsenal the real deal, this season? I certainly think they are. Let's pay some respect to the other competition. Man City, have done it, year in, year out. They unquestionably have to continue to be the favorites until it's mathematically not possible. I just don't think that you can ever rule Man City out. You watch that game today against Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace scored a goal, but it was never in doubt, that Man City were going to win that game. It was just a matter of time. And that level of confidence, that level of quality, takes some beating. So anyone that takes the title of City has to bring in something special. You cannot just, lock into the title in the Premier League. I mean, look at Liverpool, you know, in the last 7 years, they've only been able to take one Premier League title away from Man City. And that really just tells you why Man City will continue to have the respect that they have. Although I have this argument with one of my friends and, Kali, and I say, but Arsenal this season have actually been a better team than Manchester City. Yes, Manchester City have got the pedigree, they've got the history, they've got the, accolades, they've done all that they can in the last couple of years to be undeniably the top team in the Premier League. But we're talking about performances this season. And the performances this season, you just have to say that Arsenal have just been the best team, especially even the start of the year, up until now. You can't look at what Arsenal has done and kind of poo-poo that. So, I just think that, Arsenal have matured, a lot. They've really, really matured. I really, like what I'm seeing in the team. And listen, a lot of you know I'm not a real Arteta fan. I thought that it was a big risk, with Arsenal, getting him as a manager. Some of the decisions that he made. Let's be honest, we're not exactly on the nose. However, one thing that I have consistently said about Mikel Arteta, what I give him a lot of respect for, is that he always learns. He learns from his last experiences, and maybe that's also a sign of a young manager, and I have to hold my hand up and say, maybe, I just didn't give him enough grace, as a young manager just coming in. Arsenal is the first club that he's really managed. But what I'm seeing, is growth of the team, but also growth of the manager as well. And you kind of give credit where credit is due. Last season, Arsenal really couldn't handle pressure. You only need to look at those 3 games before Man City, where it was draw against Liverpool, draw against West Ham, draw against Southampton, effectively knocking us, off the title race. Never mind the game against City. I always kept saying that it wasn't always the game against the big teams that always sort of, made that difference. It used to be in the past, right? In the days of, Sir Alex and Arsene Wenger and Mourinho, those big games usually gave an indication of where the title was going to go. But Man City could win the title this season, without actually, beating any of the top teams. I mean, they only just beat Aston Villa, the other day, but their record against the top teams have been poor, and they could still win the league. And that just kind of shows you that is what you do everywhere else, is equally as important as that big game, which is why it was important that Arsenal did not lose that game against City. Let's talk about the game, today, the Brighton game. I've got to give a lot of flowers to, a lot of players. I'm starting off with Kai Havertz, right? Got to hold my hand up. That transfer did not make any sense to me. 65 million. And I have to say, even I think if you listen to even Mikel Arteta's post-game conference, and he was talking about Havertz, I think Havertz has changed, Arsenal's, mind. I don't think they ever thought that he would be like this. I think that he's probably going to change the strategy for the summer. I don't know if Arsenal will really go out there and buy a striker, because I think if you watch what Havertz has been doing consistent in the last couple of games, he scored 9 goals, this season. He's played 30 games, and you say, well, that's not really, a good return. But the first 10 games, was really, really poor for Havertz. He was playing in the middle, he was playing in the midfield, he was playing as an 8, he was playing on fourth now. It was just not working. I think, the last, sort of, maybe 12, 15 games, we really actually started seeing, the likes of, what Havertz can do. And if you now put his record right now, 9 goals in, when he really started playing, probably last 15, games or 18 games, that's not a really bad record. It's not a really bad record. I mean, if you look at, other strikers that are, yes, it's not in the quality, of, Haaland and who is, but I look at his stats and I look at Julian Alvarez. He's also played the same number of games, as Havertz, and he scored less goals. I know it's not good to compare, but sometimes it's good to just kind of see how well Havertz has done. I'll tell you what, in this game, the goal that he scored was not a fluke. That run that he made in between the defenders, he made that run in the first half. When Ben White got to the byline and crossed that ball, but he didn't get it. And in the second half, he learned from that, and he did the same run, but it was just some steps that he did before he ran into the ball, and tucked that in. And for me, that's a young, player that is continually learning, and maybe Mikel Arteta might just have unlocked something, from this player. So kudos to Havertz. Definitely played very, very well in that game. Another area we're very strong in this game was how we control the game. Arsenal very good at counter pressing, and Brighton are also very good at playing. Teams that press. Just watch their game against Liverpool and see how well they did in that game. And a number of times, when they beat the Arsenal press, we limited their shots in front of goal, which is really what Arsenal has perfected in the last 10 games. So we're really impressed with that. Control the game. Substitutions might just win Arsenal the league this season. I really think so. Everyone's talking about Klopp and the substitution that he's making and how they've been really, really effective. I think you've got to put, Mikel Arteta up there with the substitutions. I think the substitutions today, was very, very intentional. They did exactly what they were supposed to do. Zini was getting exposed one-on-one, on that left-hand side time after time. Brighton really targeted him. I think, you would see a lot of times that Dingra, if there was a better player that was playing that position against Zini, I think we could have been in trouble. I think the fact that Adingra was a little bit rash, decision making was not great in the final third, we got away with it. But Tomiyasu came into the team, and it was just a solid performance. So, maybe it's something to be said about Zinchenko and Rust, but, I feel like, we're discussing the other day, me and the guys, that Zinchenko probably has outlived the project right now. I think Julian Timber, coming, when he's fully fit, slots into that, left-hand side. And Kivio is making a huge statement, to retain that slot for himself as well. So, Will Zinchenko be happy being part of a squad player? I mean, there's a lot of players in Man City that do this, especially if Arsenal go to do what we think that we can do this season. I think he's probably outlived the project. The other area where I thought that we could improve, in this game, I think that our counter press wasn't as effective as it should have been. But I think you have to give credit to Brighton. Brighton, they have a good manager tactically, and he put them in positions, to actually compete with Arsenal. So that was a tough game. That was a tough game. Arsenal made that game really, really easy. Now, let's talk about this running. Right? Everyone is talking about how Arsenal's running is kind of like the worst out of all of them. I think it's very unbalanced when you look at it that way. Yes, Man City have got the history, the credibility, the reason why you cannot go against them. But I look at that Arsenal run of fixtures and I look at all the teams that Arsenal have to play, and I think they can win all those games. They can win all those games, including the one against Spurs. Um, I think the game that has got a psychological input into is the game against Man United at Old Trafford. I think there's something that Arsenal needs to conquer that ground. There are a couple of grounds that have always been like that for Arsenal. They go in, no matter what form that they're in, when they go into the ground, they always struggle. And what Spurs used to be a ground for us. We would draw at Spurs and then win at the Emirates. But we broke that hoodoo, I think, last season because we beat them both home and away. So I think, Crystal Palace, again, another difficult ground, for us. St. James Park, another difficult ground again for us. Man City, another difficult ground again. So every time we go, like up north, we always seem to struggle. And we're beginning to kill some of those demons, going to Man City Etihad and coming away with a draw, something that we've never really, really, done in the last, I don't know how many years. You can just keep counting. We just continually lose when we go to City. And something in the Old Trafford that we just cannot seem to get the rub of the green there. So that's the one game that I'll look at and be like, yeah, I'm not quite sure. So let me know, which games are you concerned with? Put it in the comments. What games upset you the most? What games are you worried about the most? I think that running with Arsenal, I like the balance. We play home, play away, play home, play away. I think Man City have also got that same balance as well. Liverpool, everyone says that they've got a very easy fixture, but they've got 3 back-to-back away games. Now, if you slot Europa League into that as well, that also starts to change the picture. Because they've got Fulham away, they've also got Everton away, and they've got one more team which I just can't remember. But those 3 games, are back to back to back, and away games are very, very difficult. Right now, Arsenal away form is the best in the Premier League. We're top of that league in away form. Liverpool are not too far off, so I'm not saying that they cannot go and win those games. But playing away games consistently every single week without having your fans to energize you, because the fans will play an important part in this running. And you look at how Liverpool are at Anfield, it almost like as if they are like gods. No matter what, whether the score is 2-0, 3-0, and they're down, they can still win the game 4-3. It's just something about Anfield, and you need your fans to do that. So as we get into that stretch emotionally, with the title running, I just think that maybe that might take something out. But hey, it might not. Liverpool are still favorites, to take this title, because if they win all their games, their titles, they are champions. And you've got to give them credit. Listen, that's my reaction, for the game, against Brighton. Arsenal now going to the Champions League against Bayern. This is going to be a tough game because I think Bayern have down tools, in the league, a couple of weeks ago, and they're fully focused on the Champions League. So don't expect the Bayern that you've been seeing playing in the league, the last couple of, because I think, they've switched off. Let's be honest. Bayern Leverkusen are going to win that, league. And right now, the only thing that Bayern has got is the Champions League. Let's hope for Arsenal's sake they can't just turn it on, when they want. So let's see, put your likes and your comments, share the videos with everyone, and please subscribe. A number of you guys who watch Game On show, 50% of you guys have not subscribed, so please help us subscribe. Let's build this channel, let's push it and keep it going. So have a good weekend, guys, and come on, you Gunners.